So we're going to run a little experiment this next weekend. It's going to be below zero. I think 9 below zero is our coldest, somewhere around there. And it does not really warm up for 5 or 6 days.
Ah, there we go. Okay, you just have to do it exactly right and hold your mouth right. I'm just going to clean out the batch box. How much would it cost us to run it day and night for a month?
A ton.
1 ton.
So $300 a month.
So it would still be cheaper than running the baseboards.
Exactly.
So we're thinking 6 to 8 hours per bag at this point, right?
A new bag, yep. And so I'm gonna fill this up to the top of the bevels, or the... And that's about where you had it this morning, right? So the nice to haves are definitely a fan, which of course is electricity, so that this would no longer be an off-grid situation at that point. But the fans do keep air circulating around here, and it means that the far side of the house is warmer and it's not overheating in here.
All right, we have been running this stove alone for about 2 hours this morning. I do not have the Elmira going upstairs. I don't have any electric heaters going, no propane, no nothing except this stove. Let's see. So I've got this fan blowing it away from the stove. I've got this fan circulating the air in here. I've got this fan blowing the heat up the stairs. And then we've got the fan upstairs going. And the reason I'm not turning the fans off right now while making this video is so that you can hear the noise. Anytime you have something that's not forced air, you know, and isn't in each individual room, like a baseboard, you have to use fans to keep the air moving. And that's how loud it is. So the rocket stove sounds like a rocket. It's working great. It's in the 80s down here. It's going to be in the 60s upstairs.
So a conventional pellet stove will use less pellets than this. But it is wired to electricity as well. You have the auger that regulates how many pellets fall in the fire at a time, and how hot and how cold that stove is, and then usually has a blower to blow air through versus the natural convection of this stove. A cheap pellet stove can be had for less money than this, but again, you're tied to the grid at that point. If the lights go out, you are scrambling to figure out a way to keep your stove running, because that auger stops turning and it stops pushing pellets out of the hopper into the fire.
Can you use an electric pellet stove without electricity? I didn't think you could.
No, you cannot. That's what I'm saying.
You can't light it.
If it's running and the lights go out and the power goes off, then that auger stops, the blower stops, and the ignition stops. So the fire goes out.
Whereas this one doesn't have any kind of electrical input.
If we didn't have the fans running and we all did have to go with an emergency situation, we would probably be at about a 6 foot, 7 foot radius, just kind of lined up in a circle where it's not too hot and not too cold. So do you want me to explain them as they would rotate through?
Sure.
Okay, so that's the temperature outside.
So it's 16 degrees Fahrenheit.
81 degrees in the same room as the pellet stove, and it's 68 degrees upstairs directly above us in the living room, and the bottom number 70 degrees is what it is here on the far side of the house in my office. The 70 degrees.
So we have been running for 8 hours now, and I'm eating a little bit of crow. John said that this would for sure heat the whole house with no problem without the baseboards and without the Elmira. And I told him that wasn't true. There's no way that this stove can heat the whole house. I'm wrong. We're at 8 hours burn, and we need to shut the stove down.
Mark the date and time. She never says those two words.
But I did today.
She did today.
So, would you mind doing the honors and closing it? At 8 hours, we are hot. The stove smells hot, which it's a rocket stove. It's meant to smell hot.
It's 87 degrees in this room right now.
87 degrees in here. It feels hotter. To me, it feels like 90. But I got a pretty good sweater on. We have 3 fans going, plus the fan up the stairs. The upstairs is warm. The downstairs is warm. We're at what, 30 degrees outside right now?
26.
26 degrees outside. To us, this is a warm day because we've been in the single digits in the teens Fahrenheit. But it's very capably keeping the upstairs warm. The downstairs is very warm, and it is just time to let the stove die. If we decide that we want to continue the experiment, we'll probably start it again in 2 or 3 hours.
Sounds good.
And once you do let it go out, you do have to restart it, but it's not a big deal. It takes a couple minutes.
And of course, after all the hours and hours and hours of heating, it's still cool enough right here on the hopper. I mean, it's warm, but you can totally like...
Yeah, nowhere else on the stove would you want to touch anything.
No. Yeah, not even down at the air intakes.
All right. It's actually still really warm in here. It's in the 70s. So.
Yeah, it's quite nice. High 70s.
Yeah.
So, but the fire did just go out. It's probably been, what, 45 minutes, an hour since our last?
Mm-hmm.
Currently almost 4 o'clock. So, the first sign that I got was my office in the far side of the house just started getting a little bit of a chill, and I'm like, I bet it's gone. So, in here it's plenty warm. Again, the concrete down here in the basement is going to keep this room and most of the basement much nicer. Yeah, that rock is really nice and warm.
The floor is warm. The walls are warm.
It's all warm.
It's all warm.
And comfort. The child is warm.
Where are your socks? And you're going to need snow pants. You can't go out. But it's a trooper. That's 1 full bag. Ran
Give or take.
from 8 until 4.
So 8 hours on the dot.
The nice thing is that it heated these up.
Heated up your coveralls?
Yeah, they were toasty when I got into them.
Yeah, usually they're cold down here because we don't have a stove going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The dogs like the heat. We like the heat. It was a nice heat. At one point, it did get a little bit warm because as I walked past, I think I bumped the hopper, and so it dumped more fuel than it usually does. And at that point, the stove started to smell a little bit warm. So I turned the fans up.
Where did we put it? I'm just gonna put it over here.
Just like that.
All right, so when you're starting a fire, not with pellets, you need to take out your grate. The purpose of the grate is to hold the pellets up so the air can flow through the stove still. Now the chimney is still warm, and that makes a difference. So I have a little bit of fluff from the dryer. I'm going to take just a little bit of this. So once the fabric is gone, I'm going to watch and see if the flame keeps going. What, honey? So it's about 75 right here. We're about 72 in here. You can see we've got plenty of snow out there. It's in the teens Fahrenheit. So I'd say it's about 72 in here. We'll go upstairs and see what it feels like. I bet it's 70 degrees up here. It's not actually too cold. So back here in the girls' room, yeah, I'd say it's about 70. Our dog is a little bewildered about why the stove upstairs isn't going, but he's taking full advantage of the stove down here. Okay.